Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude, back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 51, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Happy to be back, man. A little bit of a layoff, missing the fights. Glad to be back talking about everything MMA.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot to dive into today, guys. You know, it's a little bit of a quiet week on the UFC end in terms of major MMA promotions. But to me, Fight Geek, I'm even more excited because now me and you can truly debate some topics. We can really jump into some stuff. So I can't wait. Here's what's on tap for today really quick, folks. First, we're going to jump into some news and headlines. I'm going to ask Fight Geek a few quick questions about what he thinks of some of the major news from the last few days. After that, we're going to jump into a very quick news section, buying or selling, discussing whether we're buying or selling fighters. Fight Geek has no idea that I was even going to say this right now. So we're going to try out this brand new section really fast. After that, we're jumping into the listener questions. And Fight Geek, tell me if I'm wrong. Are these not like some of the best listener questions we've ever gotten?
Absolutely. I know we say that all the time, but the layoff must have made everybody hungry because these questions were very good.
These questions are fire, guys. So great job. All right, let's jump into it. Here's my first question for you, Fight Geek. I know you've got me muted on Twitter. I don't take it personally, but you may see that I created a poll about 5 hours ago that's just about tied at...
You created a poll? Shocking.
Right? I know, crazy. It's tied at 50-50 with almost 2,000 votes. Does Jorge Masvidal currently hold an active belt that can be defended in the BMF title? Now, we know that Dana White has mentioned in the last few days, Conor McGregor has mentioned in the last few days. 10 days ago, I would have said definitely not, but now I think that Jorge Masvidal does have a BMF title that can be defended. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's a piece of hardware, it can be possessed, which means it can be put on the line. So yeah, it absolutely is a title of sorts.
Now, this is very controversial. I can tell you right now, a lot of people are very upset about this. They think it's really annoying. Dana did originally say it was a one-time thing. You know, is this good or bad for the promotion? I can see it potentially damaging the legitimacy of Usman's belt, which isn't fair to Usman.
I don't see it damaging Usman's belt because I think people understand the difference between the BMF belt and the actual world champion, or the UFC world champion. Yeah, one is the top of the food heap who's beaten the champion and who's currently sitting as the champion. The BMF belt is more of like a Jorge Masvidal legacy belt at this point. He is the one that it's going to be attached to regardless now. So whether or not the belt is on the line, air quotes, or whether or not he just loses his next fight. Let's say he fights, hypothetically Leon Edwards next.
And then not likely, but...
Right. I'm just for conversation's sake. Leon Edwards were to beat him. Would not everyone think that Leon Edwards was holding that BMF belt?
No, I'm sure they would.
Yeah, so just like, if he were to fight Kamaru Usman for the belt and Kamaru Usman takes that, whether he physically gets it or not, the court of public opinion will be that he's the BMF and the world champion now.
Right, but let me play devil's advocate. You have conveniently avoided Conor McGregor, who is definitely Masvidal's most likely next fight if Conor beats Cowboy. Can we agree on that?
I think it's very likely, sure.
Okay, so if Conor beats Cowboy, and that's a big if for sure, then, if Conor is going to welterweight and pursuing that belt instead of Kamaru Usman's championship belt, how is that not damaging the legitimacy of the gold championship belt?
He has never said that. As a matter of fact, if you listen to his Mac Life interview just a couple days ago, he alludes to that belt not even being that good. It's silver, and he's concentrating on gold. So while that's part of the conversation, he clearly stated that he's interested in gold much more than he is in that belt. So I don't think he's particularly aiming for Jorge Masvidal. I think it really is a thorn in his side when Dana and Jorge say that he's too big for him. I think the competitor in Conor doesn't like that. But I don't think his goal is to beat Jorge Masvidal. I believe his goal is to get back to the lightweight title fight and, potentially attempt to win the welterweight title, which I don't think is probable, but I don't think the BMF is his main goal.
Okay, absolutely. So jumping into my second question for you, as you probably know, there has been a lot of recent news about some controversial John Kavanagh quotes that John made a few days ago in his Mac Life interview to lead up to UFC 246. I'm just going to read the quote. This is not the full quote. It was a very lengthy quote, but this is it with a few sentences, here and there redacted. I wanted to keep it short. And then I just want your reaction, Fight Geek. So this is Kavanagh's quote from a few days ago. With Conor's fighting IQ, really, this training camp is about all of us getting out of his way. Where he wants the training camp to go, what intensities, and listening to him. Where he has days he wants to push hard, days where he wants to slow down. It's not so much about filling Conor in. Conor knows more about fighting than the rest of us put together. Now, what are your reaction to that quote? What's your reaction?
I mean, it's very complimentary. I think that
yes.
Yeah, I think John is obviously trying to do a little damage control. Do I believe they're all very confident in what Conor's looking like behind closed doors right now? Yes, I think that Conor has probably been focused more so than he has in the past few years leading up to this fight. I think if you're going to see, a good performance from Conor, it's going to be in this type of fight. Everything leading up to this has been fairly tame. You haven't seen him, doing anything wild leading up to this fight. His interviews have been tame. He seems hungry. He's saying all the right things. So I'm sure he does look great behind closed doors, and that's giving them a ton of confidence. Now, I think there's a slippery slope there. You never want, Conor dictating his conditions because, you may just become lackadaisical and things like that. I'm not sure that that's the case. I don't know really what to make of the comments. They don't really strike me as all that odd. Conor pays the bills for that camp, so they're going to continue to be complimentary as long as he's around.
So John Kavanagh's comments didn't strike you as extremely and extraordinarily submissive to a fighter. I personally, Fight Geek, have never heard an MMA coach speak of a fighter in such a submissive manner.
But what do you care? I guess I don't understand what
I'm getting at completely is that Conor ran this camp on his own, was lazy, is out of shape. That's why didn't want to cut to 55, and that John Kavanagh's nothing but a yes man. Sorry, that's what I'm getting at. Kavanagh's a yes man.
You would be getting at that.
You didn't get that impression from those quotes?
Not that he's a yes man, no.
Really?
If you've been following along, obviously, they're doing a little bit of damage control with Conor's reputation. They're trying to build him back up. They're trying to speak of him in glowing terms. If he comes back and knocks out Cowboy Cerrone, they're going to be the ones saying, I told you so. So, you're just looking at it from if he fails perspective.
I've just never heard of a coach speak like that about a fighter. I've never heard it. I've never heard anything like it.
Just because you've never heard it doesn't mean that it holds some kind of significance or means that just because you've never experienced doesn't mean that it's a thing, does it?
Thanks, Fight Geek. I'm not talking about my career. I'm talking about in the history of the UFC, never seen anything like it. Never. Have you?
No, you haven't. I don't pay as much attention to to stuff like that as you do. I'm not trying to read into his comments. It is what it is. We're gonna find out in just a couple days. So whether or not he's been training or not, I personally believe he probably will look good. And again, I don't know where you get these narratives from. It
oh
does
my
sound
gosh,
stupid.
Fight, you're making it sound like I'm making this quote up. Come on,
did
man.
Did you even listen to
Meet
the
me
Conor
halfway
interview?
In reality. What are you talking about?
Did you listen to the Conor interview?
Of course I did. Yeah. What? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, as far as cutting, I know that's a BS excuse, but I don't understand why what you said about him not wanting to cut weight means that he's been lazy. I don't understand how that translates.
I think it's really weird that this fight is at welterweight. It makes absolutely no sense, and I think it's showing Conor's ego, and he's thinking, oh, it won't make a difference. I can destroy Cowboy either way, and I don't want to cut that weight. I don't want to cut that extra 15 pounds. I'm rich.
That may be the case, but I don't understand why that bothers you so much.
What do you mean bothers me? I'm just trying to predict Conor's performance, and it's not looking good as far as I'm concerned, right? Does it sound like good news for McGregor?
that his coaches are speaking about him in glowing terms. His interviews seem to be clear-eyed, and
that he's fighting at welterweight.
He's fought at welterweight before, so it's not the most shocking thing. Cowboy is a lifetime lightweight. It's not like he's fighting Kamaru Usman.
Right, but he said that he wants Usman's belt. He's clearly thinking of welterweight.
Obviously. So this would be a great way to kind of take another step from Nate Diaz in welterweight, get a little bit of welterweight experience. I think this is just Conor's way of not having to go through the murderer's row of contenders and just kind of pick fights that are appealing to climb up the ladder and become relevant again. Because he needs to win fights. What do you think's a more winnable fight at this point? Cowboy at 170 or Gaethje at 155?
How about Cowboy at 155? If Conor was even remotely concentrating on the big picture, he would have made it 55 Cowboy.
Cowboy just lost twice in a row in pretty much...
Not a welterweight, he didn't. Not a welterweight.
At 155, which means for Conor to fight him at 155 would have been less of an accomplishment than to beat him at 170. At least at 170, you can paint that Cowboy has a couple big wins recently up there. You know, he's not been finished by the top two contenders.
All right.
I think it's a more appealing fight to sell as a welterweight fight, just because Cowboy's not a title contender at 155 at all.
I have got to say, Fight Geek, with all due respect, I think you're completely giving Conor the easy way out here. I mean, you're just glossing over this extremely alarming content just like it's nothing. That's what I think.
It's so alarming.
I think it is. I've never heard a coach speak like this. But anyways, last question here. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Kavanagh made a prediction for the fight, and he said that he saw Conor getting a late stoppage in the championship rounds. I've never before heard Kavanagh predict championship rounds. Is this also concerning?
None of this is concerning to me. I don't know. What do you want him to say?
First round or second round knockout, like he's always said.
Why? Because that's what's always happened. There's not a possibility of anything else happening.
Come on, Fight Geek. Meet me halfway here. You don't think it's weird?
You don't think it's weird? Thing and you've got these crazy narratives.
But I'm just giving you quotes. Like, am I not giving you facts, dude? I'm giving you facts.
No, you are. But I don't see why it's so important to read into what the coach is saying.
I mean, I think it's very telling. I mean, they're running the camp, or they're at least supposed to be running the camps. No?
Maybe they feel that confidently.
Okay, all right. Well,
you just think he's being 100% delusional?
We're going to find out. I can't wait to find out.
Well, that's my point. That's why I don't really care to talk about the comments, because in 12 days I get to see what's really going to happen, and all the talk will be over.
Yeah.
But I get we got to talk about it. So, but yeah, I don't really put as much weight into the comments of John Kavanagh, and especially him saying Conor knows way more about fighting than he does, because outside of Conor McGregor, John Kavanagh's not exactly, producing world champion after world champion.
Right. No, absolutely.
We're not talking about Firas Zahabi here, or, someone, Jackson. We're not talking about someone who has done this over and over. He's done it once with Conor, so for him to give Conor the majority of the credit makes a lot of sense.
I guess what jumps out to me on that, and this is the last thing I'll say, what jumps out to me on that, Fight Geek, is if I'm Conor McGregor and I hear John Kavanagh say those words, Conor knows more than the entire gym combined, well, then why should Conor listen to any advice Kavanagh has? Why should he respect him as a coach? It sounds like Conor's the king, per John's own words.
Maybe he is my point is with different fighters, maybe at this point in Conor's career, he really needs his ego stroked after a couple rough years. Maybe internally they know that Conor needs to be built up to be at his best. And whether that's delusionally making comments about this, that, or the other thing, I think, that may be at play here too. I think that they're trying to build Conor's confidence all the way back up. It's been a rough couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I promise I'm about to end this conversation. I had a California Bedbugs, guys. He's an awesome follow. He's at Canine Bug Finder. Me and him were debating, going back and forth. So Fight Geek, he definitely was more on your side, disagreed with me, but I want to read his response and then get what you think. He said, I'm convinced that we should not believe anything that comes from a fighter or their camp heading into a fight. Conor has proven he likes to rely on mind games as a tool to help him win as much as physical techniques, and we can guess he isn't trying to intimidate or provoke Cowboy. He may be hoping to create a condition of overconfidence and carelessness in Cowboy heading into the fight by portraying his own camp as dysfunctional. If I were to give Cowboy advice, it would be to focus on fight films and ignore what Conor and his camp are saying heading into the fight. What do you think of that?
Yeah, again, I'm not a psychologist here. I don't know exactly what everybody's thinking, but I'm the fight geek, not the fight psychologist. But
okay, you could be both though.
I guess it's a fair assumption. That would make sense. That doesn't really kind of ring true over history, though. The guys who have been really aggressively in Cowboy's face and kind of disrespectful to him have always fared the best. Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, guys who show Conor or Cowboy very little respect and then immediately pressure him in the early rounds has been kind of the kryptonite for Cowboy.
Yeah.
So I don't really see how that would be something they could, put into play. Oh, let's be super nice to Cowboy and act like we're all out of sorts. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I think Conor's worrying about him. I think, Cowboy is going to do exactly what Cowboy always does. I don't think he's analyzing any extra film, this, that, or the other thing. I think we know what we're getting in this fight. The commodities are pretty known. The only thing we don't know is really how Conor will look coming back. At 170, he looks big. The intrigue here to me is if the fight gets into the third round and Conor hasn't finished Cowboy, I think a lot leans towards Cowboy. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's really a lot to unpack. I'm just really looking forward to it. Yeah. I don't know if Conor's in the space he was to be this, mind game master anymore. I think he's got to worry about himself right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, with that, we are done with the questions. We're moving on to the quick news section, buying or selling. So, Fight Geek, this is how it works. I'm going to name a fighter who's got an upcoming fight. I need to know if you're buying or selling that fighter, meaning is this fighter's stock going to be higher or lower after this next fight? So that's how it works. Guys, we're trying something new.
I got no foreshadowing of this segment. This is all brand new.
He got no foreshadowing, guys. He got none.
Executive producer Phil didn't even let me know what the matchups were.
It's relax. Okay, so buying or selling. Paige Vanzant, she's got an upcoming fight with Amanda Ribas. And after that, Paige's contract runs out, where it's widely rumored she'll be going to Bellator. I want to know, are you buying or selling Paige Vanzant right now? Meaning, is her stock going to be higher after that Amanda Ribas fight, or is it going to be lower?
Well, that's a tough question. It can be both. It's going to be lower in the UFC, higher in Bellator. I'm selling Paige.
Win? Does she win that fight?
I don't see her winning that fight. No, I think that Amanda Ribas is, good young prospect, athletic striker, more active. Paige has kind of taken a turn in her career more towards an Instagram model than a fighter. So,
yeah.
And, a wife, not saying she can't be a great fighter, it just seems like her interests have shifted from full-time fighting. I feel like Amanda Ribas is right in the middle of her fighting career and seems focused and consistent. So I'm definitely selling Paige in the fight. But she can go to Bellator and her stock could be up by summertime. So, there's kind of a yin and a yang to that question.
Well, sure, but wouldn't she be getting paid a lot more from Bellator if she wins against Amanda?
I don't think that's really going to matter to Bellator. I think Paige Vanzant is a commodity, win, lose, or draw. People will know her, and Bellator can use her regardless.
Okay, all right, perfect. I've got one more fighter. Jeremy Stephens, buying or selling. He has recently been announced to have a fight with Calvin Cater. Is it Cater or Qatar? This really drives me crazy, guys.
I think it's Cater, but I'm not sure.
I hear it both ways so much. But Calvin versus Jeremy Stephens is next. You buying or selling Jeremy?
I mean, what do you mean? Buying
Is he going to win? Is he going to win against Calvin? Do you like his chances?
I mean, that's a pick'em fight in my opinion, but I would take Calvin Qatar right now.
So would I.
Just off the top of my head.
So would I. So I'm thinking we sell Jeremy Stephens. The stock's going down. Okay. I don't think we're going to get this segment again, folks, so I hope you enjoyed it.
All right.
He's death staring me. Okay, guys, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're back with my favorite section, listener questions. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.totalaggressionclothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special split podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.totalaggressionclothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 51, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, listener questions! Thank you. I appreciate that applause. I appreciate that. Okay, so we got some awesome listener questions this week, Fight Geek. Should I go first or you?
I got one. We'll kick off. It's
cool.
From Jim Asoon on Instagram. So
Jim
we'll get that
Asoon.
one. Yep. Thanks, Jim, for the question. He says, any idea who Floyd Mayweather's fighting next? Hashtag AskSplitPod. A little random to start off, but you got any thoughts there?
Oh, man, that's super tough because, maybe you can fill me in here, Fight Geek. Didn't Dana say that he's talking to Floyd for a fight deal, right? So this is with Dana?
I believe Dana says he has a handshake deal with Floyd, and even alluded to it being competing. So, I don't know.
No, I remember he said it was for competing, but I'm assuming that's going to be Zuffa boxing?
Boxing, yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be a boxing match versus a UFC guy.
So
more
McGregor
than likely,
too, right?
That's literally the only fight that would make any shred of sense.
That's so crazy. So you really think is that fight really, realistically, likely to happen?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I believe he said maybe around summer we would have some kind of information on the boxing thing. I have no idea. The only person that would out there that would make enough noise is Floyd, and you could co-promote with him. So.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal note, the only other fight that I would like to see Floyd come back for is a rematch with Canelo. I'd love to see that. Or
you could see potentially Dana doing. Here's my answer. Floyd versus Pacquiao 2 for Zuffa Boxing. That's the best guess I could give you. I don't know.
Man, I can't even put into words how much I wouldn't care about that fight. Really? I mean, Pacquiao?
I mean, who else is there? Pacquiao's been winning. His stock is up
Canelo
right now.
And there's Conor. I think those are both bigger fights, honestly.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, that's what we said, Conor first. So yeah, either Conor or Pacquiao is really the only two names that make sense in my opinion.
What about Canelo?
Floyd Mayweather is never fighting Canelo Alvarez again. You can book that. Bank on that.
Okay. All right. I happen to agree. Okay. All right. So moving on. This one is from Kev. Kev's a great listener. This is at KevC918. Guys, if you don't follow Kev, give him a follow. He's the man. He said, has there ever been a fight you guys have watched live and it looked completely one-sided, but when you watch it back, you realize it was closer than you thought? Keep up the awesome work, guys. Hashtag AskSplitPod. So why don't you take this first, Fight Geek?
Yeah, tough question. I've only been to a handful of fights live, so there's only a few to pick from. But one that really stands out to me is the Gaethje-Poirier fight. Watching that live, there was so much commotion that, it was really hard to see what was going on, who was getting the upper hand until the finish. And then when I went back and watched it, I think that Dustin was in a little more control than I perceived live. So that would definitely be the fight for me.
Okay, yeah. If it's got to be a fight that we saw literally live, the best example of this, Kev, it would be UFC 225, Whitaker versus Romero 2. I was lucky to be there live. And I remember when I saw it live, I scored that for Whitaker by 1 point. Obviously, Whitaker won by split decision. I then re-saw the fight the next day, and I scored it a draw. Then I saw it a third time within the week, and I scored it 1 for Romero by 1 point. So, and then I've seen it more times since then. I still have no idea what happened there. I think the true score should be a draw, but that's the biggest example I can think of.
Nice. Cool.
Yep. All right.
Great question, Kev.
Yep. Thanks, Kev. Okay. This is from @JokersLL. Love this guy. He says, Do you think the month break between the last UFC event and the McGregor pay-per-view was done on purpose so the potential buyers would be craving any sort of kind of MMA and therefore would be willing to buy the awful UFC 246 pay-per-view? He said awful.
Yeah, it's a good question for sure. I don't think it hurts. I think it actually helps its cause. Bleeding it out, the return of Conor McGregor. Although it seems tempered enthusiasm and excitement right now, I really think it'll pick up next week, fight week. So yeah, I think that there probably was a little bit of strategy there once they figured out when Conor wanted to come back and the time frame. I think this made a ton of sense. They're kicking off the 2020 year with Conor McGregor after the holiday break. I think that's something smart marketing people can put together. So I would agree that it probably was strategic.
Yep. Have to agree with you. I feel a little bit bad for UFC 246. In all honesty, it's been getting absolutely lit up as a joke pay-per-view, and I think that's a little harsh. I will say that. I mean, they've got Holly Holm versus Raquel Pennington too. I think that's a decent fight.
I think Macy Barber's not on the main, right?
She's not. She's the main event of the prelims, Roxanne Modafferi versus Macy.
Is very intriguing to me. Yep. Every time Macy fights, I mean, I know she's not a big pay-per-view draw, but that's the second fight that I'm incredibly intrigued by.
Oh, definitely. That fight's going to be fantastic.
I think the Anthony Pettis-Ferreira fight, while it may not be the sexiest fight on paper, I think there's huge implications both ways in that fight. So, and the way Anthony fights and the way Ferreira fights, it's going to be crazy action.
That is a tough fight for Showtime for very little, name value.
High risk, low reward versus a guy who's very good and looking to make a name. So, while people are crapping on the card, I think for MMA fans, there's some good action. There's some meat on the bone, maybe just not a bunch of big names. Doesn't Sadiq Youssef fight as well on that card?
That sounds right.
Sadiq Youssef and Macy Barber are two of my favorite prospects on the roster. So.
Yeah, Sadiq versus Andre Touchy-Feely. That's another good one.
That's a fun fight. That's not on the main, though, is it?
No, it's prelims.
So, yeah, they could have stuffed that pay-per-view with some of the better name fights, but they had to. It is spread thin. Let's not pump it up too much, but there is some intrigue there.
Yeah, and I feel like they do that with most McGregor cards, right? Because they know it's gonna.
Well, I think Macy Barber is headlining the free prelims before the pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
So I mean, that's a big spot for Macy. If you're not going to be on the pay-per-view side, to headline the main preview or prelim card is big.
Absolutely, and Roxanne's a solid competitor who's never been knocked out. I think that could be an interesting
very
one.
Tricky. Well, she has some deficiencies in her striking with Macy. If she can get any type of scramble or position on the ground, she may have something for her.
Absolutely. All right, I've got a question from Ali Ra. Love this guy. This is at Leg Sweep MMA. Give him a follow, guys. He's the man. He says, have you guys ever been knocked out before? If so, tell us the story. Fight Geek, I know you said you had an answer, so start this one off.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a funny story. I was younger. Most people don't know. I grew up playing basketball. I was a basketball player my whole life. And yeah, the first time I'd ever got knocked out, I was when the big men used to get rebounds, I'd come around the back, like the baseline, and try to poke the ball out from behind and, get steals when they weren't paying attention. And one game, I came around behind after a big guy had gotten the rebound, and he swung his elbow back, and right as he did, I came through, got knocked out cold in a high school basketball game, woke up with both teams in a circle around me looking up. So it was something I'll never forget, and keep your head on a swivel whenever you're chasing rebounds. So.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna talk about some kind of like boxing fight. Okay, so have you ever been knocked out in combat?
That one always comes to mind.
Okay.
Have I ever been knocked out by a punch? No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, so I obviously did boxing for over 10 years. I broke my nose twice, but I will say I was never knocked out cold. I was dropped a bunch and like flash knockdowns. Never knocked out cold. But the story I was going to give is a couple of years ago when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was very lucky. I had these one-on-one lessons with this really great black belt from Brazil. And basically the lessons were just, him going 100% against me. And I obviously was getting tapped out every 20 seconds. And slowly but surely, months in a row doing this, I improved and got much better. But one moment that I remember is this happened multiple times in the first few months. I woke up and he was standing over me and he had my legs up and he's kind of leaning against him. He's, oh, just stretching you out. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I must just be, stretching out. I felt a little tired. And then, of course, it finally occurs to me, bro, you've been getting choked out every time you wake up to this. He's doing the blood flow back into your brain. You've been getting choked out because you've been refusing to tap.
You know what else they do to get the blood flowing, so hopefully you kept it clean.
Yeah, okay. Very, very pedestrian, but yeah.
All right.
So that's that.
Well, great question.
Absolutely.
I got one here from Paul O'Kelly.
Paul O'Kelly. Love that guy.
He says, what is the one thing you would like to see the UFC change this year in its promotion? Go ahead.
Such a great question. I would like, wow, such a great one. I would like them to recognize that it's been a year since they changed the belts. They tried, give them a nice golf clap. The new belts are horrendous. Get rid of them immediately. Go back to the old belts. Everything else is working great. Get rid of these disgusting new belts.
That's one I didn't see coming.
I mean, I'm happy with the product, honestly.
I don't think they're going to be doing that, but yeah.
I don't either.
Gosh, off the top of my head, what is something I really want to see changed with the promotion? I'd like to see the champions a tad bit more active. I think once people reach the championship level, they become, few and far between. So, yeah, I'd just like to see the champions be more active throughout the year. I'm not expecting them to fight 4 times as the champions, but I think it should, you should have to defend your title twice a year,
Yeah.
Barring injury and yada, yada. And then, I'd also like to see them be a little more strict with stripping people who haven't defended in a 12-month period.
Yep. I agree with that as well.
I like to see the divisions keep moving. The lightweight division is still held up from the Conor McGregor era. We still don't know who the best lightweight is between Tony and Khabib because Tony has had to fight so many times to get a belt because the champions in the past were just holding on to it. So I'd like to see that.
Yep, absolutely. Hard to disagree with that. So I've got a question from Jalen Ware. This is at @strive2be_great. Jalen's the man. He's always bringing the fire, and he brought the fire again. He says, out of their next fights, who's got the most career-defining fight between Khabib's unbeaten streak against Tony or Conor getting back on track versus Cowboy, #AskSplitPod?
So this is a Khabib and Conor question?
And Conor, who's got a more career-defining fight on the line? It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's a very tough question because if Conor loses, a lot of that elite shine that he still tries to project is gone.
Yep. I think it'd be catastrophic.
It would be catastrophic to his, I mean, who knows? People will still delusionally support him even if he loses, but I think
I don't know. It'll be interesting, man. We'll see.
It would be. I mean, I think it would have to be Conor McGregor here. I think because Tony is so good, my answer to that question would be Tony. Because if Tony is the guy, to beat Khabib, his legacy would be the most affected. He would be that guy. He would be.
Well, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you ask those two questions, the only guy that kept raising in my head is Tony. If Tony beats Khabib, things change big time. Khabib, I don't think would take too big of a notch down if he lost to Tony in public perception.
I'm sure we'd get an automatic rematch, right?
Yes, but if Tony were to beat Khabib on the tail end of a 12-13 fight winning streak after all this time saying he's the uncrowned champ and defending his interim belt and all this madness, Tony would be seen as a Mount Rushmore type guy, I would feel like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, not to change your question up, but I would say Conor out of your choices, but Tony overall.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great question, Jalen. Look, we're getting into the weeds deciding. Obviously, it's a huge fight for Khabib, and it's a huge fight for Conor with a ton on the line. So we can get into the weeds on that. I think it's kind of, we're kind of really nitpicking there because both of them, it's huge fights for both their careers.
Yeah, but Conor has more to lose. I mean, if Khabib were to lose to one of the other, another all-time great fighter, you can make an excuse for him, and then he'll get his rematch. He doesn't take as many notches down. If Conor loses to Cowboy in what seems to be a hand-picked fight at a hand-picked weight, coming off a break, Cowboy's on a 2-fight losing streak, I think that would really tarnish Conor.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so this question is from MMA Assault 1 at MMA Assault 1. He says, of all the current champs, which one retiring right now would create the most open division for the foreseeable future? For example, I think Stipe retiring would cause the most open division because DC would take it back easily for a long while. That's what MMA Assault said. What do you think?
I believe if John Jones retired today, it would be that division.
Yeah, and I hate John, but I have to agree.
He's had a stranglehold on that division for too long now. We're struggling to find him contenders, even though I am interested in the Reyes fight, but I think that's a clear answer.
Yeah, and as you know, I love DC and I despise Jones, so this would be the time for me to be all biased and say, oh, it's DC, do you take over? But no, the truth is, look, I gotta be honest, I gotta keep it 100, and the answer is John Jones retiring would definitely cause, the most upheaval at the light heavyweight division, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, I got one queued up from Dean Raubs.
Dean, what up?
He says, what division has the potential for the belt to change hands the most this year? And also, what's your guys' favorite division? He says his is 155, #AskSplitPod. Great questions. My favorite division is the lightweight division. I mean, it's the division of kings, in my opinion. Multiple guys in that division are championship caliber. Even guys that are low. I mean, Dan Hooker's floating in, 6'7" range. He's a top contender type, in my opinion, also. 155 continually pushes guys to other weight classes because it's so dense with talent. You just saw a guy like Barbosa, who is 100% elite, going to 145. We've seen many guys leave. I was just thinking about Masvidal previously. He was, somewhat ambiguous 155er. He lost to Ally Quinta on points, wasn't all that impressive. He leaves the division. Cowboy leaves the division. Anthony Pettis leaves the division and gets a big win. It's 155 for me.
Okay. Are we talking about all time or just right now? I'm going to interpret it as right now.
Yeah, I think currently.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go ahead and say 145 featherweight. I can't remember the last time that featherweight has been this stacked. I mean, we have got Volkanovski, who really beat Max Holloway fairly easily. We've got Max Holloway, who is one of the greatest featherweights of all time. We've got Korean Zombie, Brian Ortega, Zabit, Yair Rodriguez. I mean, the list goes on. Calvin.
It is a great division for sure.
Featherweight. And now we've got Edson Barboza coming. So it couldn't be more stacked.
It's amazing. But, I mean, I think the 155 rivals it. 100%.
Yeah.
155, you got guys like Fajeda, who's not even ranked, who's, on multiple fight, I think a 5-fight win streak. You got all kinds of guys, prospects all over the place. Kevin Lee, there's just guys everywhere in 155.
Yeah, absolutely. And who do you think, which division is most likely to change hands with the belt? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make a controversial choice here. I'm going to say women's strawweight. I could see JJ potentially taking that belt from Wiley Zhang. I think that'd be hard, but she could do it. I can see that belt going back and forth between a few ladies at strawweight.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Bantamweight, Henry Cejudo comes to mind.
Yeah, bantamweight is where I was leaning initially. So I was going to say bantamweight. Henry could lose his first defense to Aldo if that's what it ends up being, and then I could see potentially. Aldo looked amazing in that fight, though, versus Moraes. But, then you have a Peter Yan who's on the horizon. I could see that belt changing hands possibly twice. But it'd be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next question is from Larry. That's Larmule61. Give Larry a follow. Larry is one of the most dedicated Split Decision podcast listeners. He's been with us from day one. Said #AskSplitPod. T. Wood's manager says he is motivated, but no contract has been signed against Leon Edwards. What are your thoughts on Woodley's motivation and future? And then his second question, name a few up-and-coming fighters you are keeping an eye on. So, first of all, I feel like we've answered that second question a few times recently. We're both very high on Macy Barber. Yeah. I believe, Jairzinho Rosenstrike at heavyweight. Who
Sadiq
else?
Youssef.
Yep. Cyril Gagne. Gagne, whichever one it is. I gotta
high on all those guys. And then Jim Crute is still a guy I'm pretty high on. Interested to see Jim Crute perform again.
Yeah.
You remember Jimmy Crute?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Just trying to dig for some names we might not pull.
Sugar Sean O'Malley might be making his return.
I'm excited to see him when he returns.
Did you see it just got pushed back for mysterious reasons?
Yeah. No, I didn't see that. Brandon Moreno, even though I know he's more of a commodity, I love Brandon Moreno.
Moreno's a really good answer. That's a really good answer.
So we'll rest on that one then.
Yeah. Okay.
I got one queued up.
Wait. We have to answer. We have to answer Larry's first question about T Wood. Oh. What do you make of him not having signed the Leon Edwards contract and his motivation going forward?
I think Woodley probably is not all that motivated for Edwards, but I think he probably would be motivated for an Usman or a Colby. At this point in Woodley's career, he's kind of done it all, seen it all, thinks he's a rapper, getting into movies and TMZ and all of this. So I don't think, Edwards, while Edwards on paper is a great fight, makes sense, rankings would be awesome to watch. I don't think, T Wood's getting up in the morning overly excited to fight someone like that at this point in his career. That's just my opinion. So I think, whenever those are the kind of fights being offered to him, I think his interest is probably waning.
I have to.
But if he were to get a title fight, I think you'd probably see the best of T Wood again.
Definitely, and I have to agree with you. As a Woodley fan, it kind of breaks my heart to admit it. I think his motivation is definitely a little lacking, especially with Leon Edwards being presented as the big fight. I mean, it's tough. And it's tough because I want Woodley to go and beat Edwards, and I know he's capable of it, but it's tough. It's tough seeing it. It's tough seeing his lack of motivation.
Yeah. Especially when he's been in fights with Wonder Boy and Maya, and he's taken the somewhat tough stylistic fights that aren't overly appealing. So for this, and he took those because he was the champion and had to. At this point, he doesn't have to take that kind of chess match. He would probably more likely want something that is going to draw more eyeballs, be a main event. Other than London, I don't think that fight is going to be a main event, right?
Yeah, hard to see it being a main event anywhere but London.
Right. So, and that's him going on enemy turf to get the main event, which,
right.
It's hard to paint it as a super high reward fight for Woodley.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Now we're good to move on?
Yep.
Okay, I got one from Casual MMA Podcast.
What up?
He says, I like this question a lot. He says, do you feel that Conor will get the credit he deserves with the win over Cowboy? I'm worried he'll win handily and people will still say, well, he was supposed to, which is nonsense because Cowboy win is still big. Go ahead.
I think it's an interesting question because my first thought is, well, what is the fair amount of respect that he should get for beating Cowboy at welterweight? It is a fair question, right? It's a fair question. Does he deserve to fight for the lightweight belt after beating Cowboy at welterweight? I think that's absurd. I couldn't imagine how that could be justified.
Do you believe Cowboy's a top 15 welterweight in the world when he's at his best?
Yes. Right around 15 or 14.
Okay, so if Conor McGregor is able to beat Cowboy, it'll at least tell us that he's a top 15 welterweight, correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair.
Okay. And so that's my first point. That's the credit I will give him. It will give his 170-pound quest some validity because right now, beating Nate once and losing to Nate once, he's an unranked welterweight.
Right.
So I think it gives him some type of proper placement moving forward, in my estimation anyways. And I think that, Conor's been gone so long, he'll get the credit. If he wins and he wins in any type of fashion, Conor's going to be the flavor of the week again. People are dying to say something positive about Conor McGregor. Even the people who are through thick and thin with him, they're sticking up for him when there's nothing good to say about him. So if they give, if he gives them any reason to boast, I think he'll get more credit than he deserves.
Yeah.
So that's just what I think. But great question.
Yep, absolutely, and I agree. And I think that if look, there actually is reason for people to root for Conor. If you're trying to decide who to root for, the only thing I will say is, if Conor beats Cowboy, it's a fact that there's more interesting potential fights to be made than if Cowboy beats Conor, in my honest opinion.
Absolutely. And you may even see that Conor versus RDA fight at 170 that we never got at 155.
Oh, I don't think that's not sexy anymore at all. Everyone's going to want McGregor Masvidal.
Yeah, everyone is going to want that. Agreed. And if Conor loses at 170 to Cowboy, he still has that Nate Diaz fight to fall way back on.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll see eventually. I'm not sure if it'll be 2020. That's what we'll see eventually. If Conor loses this fight, I think he'll.
Well, did you notice that Nate is so strategic? Yesterday he dropped some ambiguous tweet about. I can't remember off the top of my head.
He restarted the fight game. He's bragging.
He restarted the fight game. Yeah. You notice he tweets that as Conor's releasing interviews, looking good, getting ready to possibly win a fight at 170. Nate is very strategic with the way he places things. It's like, now that, I think that he'll definitely want that if Conor's successful.
Oh, yeah. Nate is an expert marketer. I've always felt this way. People say
very shrewd with how he keeps himself connected.
Very, very. And he created that BMF pay-per-view event out of thin friggin' air. So he knows how to sell, just like Conor does. Don't get it mistaken, guys. Nate Diaz knows how to sell.
Absolutely. Okay, ready to move on to the next one?
Yep.
All right, I got one here from the MMA philosopher, show regular.
Yeah, Dan, what up?
All right, he says, what is your guys' pound-for-pound top 10 rankings? Now, this is like homework that I didn't do, but we'll go off the top of our head and see if we can agree on a few here. So, number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, who is it?
I mean, I know you're going to say John Jones. You know what I'm going to say. Do we really? I think it's absolutely Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's undefeated, and most of all, he's gotten to where he is without using performance-enhancing drugs over and over again.
Fine, I'll give you that. Khabib is number 1 today, I would say. Number 2, can we go John
Jones?
Okay, number 3 is where it gets interesting. Who do you have at number 3?
Ready? I think it should be Amanda Nunes.
I 100% agree. Amanda Nunes. All right, let's keep it moving to number 4. Who do you have at number 4?
I agree with the rankings. Stipe Miocic. No?
Believe that Israel Adesanya should be above Stipe Miocic in that slot.
Okay, fair.
And then go to 5.
And then, okay, so we obviously disagree there. And then at that point, so I put Israel. We just have those switched.
Okay. I would actually put Stipe and then 6, Kamaru Usman.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to get into the absolute weeds of every single one that me and you would do differently. But yeah, okay, so let's keep going. So what are we on? Number 8?
No, we're on 6. So are you good? What's your 6? Mine is Kamaru Usman.
No, I agree with the real pound for pound rankings on number 6, Daniel Cormier.
Okay.
Yeah. Then going Kamaru Usman, then going Alexander Volkanovski, Valentina Shevchenko, and Tony Ferguson to round it out.
I would put Valentina Shevchenko over Volkanovski on a pound-for-pound ranking, considering she's fought Nunes twice. She's a defending champion. She lost
both times against Nunes, though.
Some people believe she won the second fight, and she's been the... What?
She didn't, though. Like, that's a cool story, but she lost.
Well, what are you talking about?
What do you mean? I've got to recognize the actual results.
Oh, yeah, okay. You recognize that in the Reyes versus Volkan fight?
Well, I mean, Dominic won. I mean, technically.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it works for when it's your argument, but not mine.
No, okay. I mean, Dominic did win, whatever they say.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think Shevchenko should be above.
Okay, that's fair.
Above Volkanovski. Volkanovski is a great fighter, but he's only done it once. She's done it multiple times, and almost done it versus the greatest female fighter ever, who's also the 145 champion. when she's fighting at 125. 2 weight classes above, she hangs with that champion.
Okay.
That is the definition of a pound-for-pound fighter. Okay.
All right.
But we'll get too caught up in the weeds.
Yeah, shoot, we have so many questions
Conor
to
McGregor.
go.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right. So this is from Proper Vegetables. That's at the Gamer357. Guys, follow Proper Vegetables. He's very cool. And he actually had retweeted something from the Combat Hub who said, the only way I'd be happy with Conor getting another shot at Khabib is if he beats Cowboy and they bring back Tough, with both Khabib and Conor as captains. So Proper Vegetables says, should they bring back Tough with Khabib and Conor as coaches, assuming they both win their next fight? What do you think of that?
To be honest with you, it'd probably do big numbers for Tough and revive it for a season, but no, I don't want to see that. I
feel like they get into a physical altercation on hour 1.
And not only that, I don't want to see those two groups of people interacting with each other anymore. It's not intriguing. It's just stupid.
Right. Would it even be interesting? TV? Like Khabib's like, we gonna see. And he's like, he's a little rat. He's a rat.
In my opinion, what is the intrigue of their trash talk at this point?
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of boring.
Every time Conor talks about that fight, it seems so delusional to me. He paints that fight as if it was very competitive when he talks about it.
He said he was winning. In his interview with MacLife, he gives this whole account on how he was winning, and I'm thinking,
he outstruck him 3-1 in the first round. So Conor sounds real good, except when he's talking about that fight, in my opinion. And again, that leads me back to maybe he just needs to build his confidence up to get to a specific place to perform, because in not one moment of watching that fight live or rewatching it is there ever a time where I feel like Conor is doing much other than maybe in the third round when he lands a couple shots.
Yeah.
But that was a dominant fight where he was finished before the 5th round. So
for sure, I completely agree with you, Fight Geek. I just think it's interesting you're saying, I do believe Conor's back to the old Conor. He's going to do great at 246. Yet you admit he's being delusional right now in his interviews.
I didn't say he's going to be back to the prime Conor McGregor when he was 25 years old.
Okay, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're like,
he's 31 and has lived a lot more life since, he knocked out Aldo and was, moving the world around in the palm of his hand.
I mean, I'm 31 and I'm a complete idiot. You can be 31 and be an idiot.
I agree with that. You said something about him being his best form of himself. I'm not expecting to see the best form of Conor McGregor we've ever seen. I believe we've already seen the best of Conor McGregor.
But you think he'll do well?
I do think he will do well, yes. But I don't think he will ever outdo Jose Aldo and Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
That are the 2 crown jewels of his career, period.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It won't get better than that.
Okay, agreed.
I got one from Juice, a Fighting With Myself podcast.
Juice, what up?
He says, what is your most bold prediction for 2020? Ask Split Pod.
Should I go first?
Sure, I got a good one, unless you do.
I've said this before, but Korean Zombie is going to be the featherweight champion on December 31st, 2020.
All right, my bold prediction is Costa beats Israel in the fall.
Ooh. Okay, and you think Israel gets by Yoel Romero, which it sounds like is going to be the 238 main event.
I think it's incredibly bold and badass that he asked for Yoel because, like Dana says, the one thing Dana's not lying about is nobody wants to fight Yoel. I believe that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but I do feel like Izzy will win that fight. I think he'll be strategic enough, stay away enough to make that happen. And I won't go too far into it because another question here. I want to talk about the same topic. But, yeah, Costa versus Israel, just, fantasizing about that fight.
All right. Okay, I like it.
All right. You got another one queued up?
Yeah. Okay, this is from Mr. B. Mr. B, 1986. Love Mr. B. He's one of our most loyal listeners. Yo, guys, Happy New Year. 2 questions is what he says. He says, 1, what are your thoughts on Garbrandt's upcoming fight against a Sun Tzu? 2, what do you think about Wood versus Dodson? Should I go first or you? You want to take it?
I'll go. I like this one.
Yep.
what are my thoughts on Garbrandt's upcoming fight with Assunção? I think it's the perfect opponent for Cody to come back against. You know, Cody has enough defensive wrestling and should have a striking advantage to really keep this fight where he's comfortable. Assunção is a vet who's always going to be ranked at the top of the division, so it's a solid win if he pulls it off. Assunção is not a guy who's going to really trade with a lot of heavy power. So I think that's another benefit for Garbrandt. So I think this is a very strategic fight that they selected for Cody. Now, Cody still needs to show that he can implement a game plan and use some fight IQ, but I think it's a great fight for Cody. Lots to build off of for him. Second, with Wood versus Dodson, I'm taking Wood. Dodson has really not shown an ability to implement much offense recently, in the last few years, actually, in my opinion. You know, he doesn't really use his speed to get in like he used to. He still possesses some power when he does land, but he's so defensive and technical that he doesn't really get off a lot. Wood is a little more of a wild man, in my opinion, a little more offense to his game. So that's what I think.
Yep. I will really quickly say that I definitely agree with you on Wood over Dodson, and someone's got to tell Dodson that, you know, the afro look probably should be cut off when you start going bald. It makes a very awkward half afro of baldness. It really accentuates the baldness. So Dodson, maybe stop with the afro. You're bald, bro, but all love. I got Wood in that. And then for that first fight, look, I'm a huge Cody Garbrandt fan. I don't know if people know this. I've got a Team No Love shirt that is somewhere in a corner that I haven't touched in a while because I'm a bad sport like that. But I'm very worried, Fight Geek. I'm extremely worried. I think that Garbrandt had that Dominic Cruz performance that was so perfect, and after that, I think he just, I don't know what happened. I think he just got into his own head, and I'm not convinced that he's out of his own head, if I'm being honest. I'm very concerned that Assunção will submit him.
Interesting. He does have great defensive wrestling coming from a Team Alpha Male, you know, so that the ability to keep the fight standing is why I would say no there. But
he'll have to keep his emotions in check.
It's very intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay. I got another one. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Respect the Depths asks,
Yo.
What are the potential title fights? Are the UFC booking this year? Go ahead. You got any potential fights up?
Well, we know 247 is Jones Reyes. We know the 249 is Khabib Ferguson. We know the 248 has JJ versus Zhang. We know that there's going to be a fight night for Benavidez versus Figueiredo for the vacant flyweight belt now that Henry Cejudo has strangely dropped it. 248, I believe's main event is going to be Adesanya versus Romero, with a small chance, by the way, that it's going to be Darren Till instead. I do think there's a small chance of that because it's been weirdly silent and we haven't heard of the fight. I'm wondering if Till's sneaking in there. I don't think so, but
Till versus Costa would be fun.
Yeah, but Costa's out for a while due to whatever. Then 250. So UFC 250. That's the furthest I'll go because I think it starts getting silly after that because then you don't know what's going to happen. But 250, I would be very surprised if 250 is not headlined by Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3.
Right. I think he was saying not give us the schedule of what is booked, but give us a couple fantasy potentials.
I just thought I just did that. No.
Oh, okay. I don't know. You sounded like you actually know that those are booked. So
no, those were. I mean,
I would say that there's two flyers: Macy Barber fighting Valentina Shevchenko this year, and a potential Francis versus Stipe rematch.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're going further into the future.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, good to go.
Yeah. Don't sleep on DC in that Stipe trilogy. We'll see.
All right, I got one here from Henry Allen. He says if a top heavyweight boxer, Joshua Fury Wilder, fought each UFC champ in an MMA fight, which, if any, could beat them?
Or 0. Which, if any, could they beat in MMA?
Oh, yeah. Could they beat? They could beat none of them.
I agree. The only thing I would say is, just for the sake of fun, could Tyson Fury knock out Stipe Miocic? No, actually, I just said it out loud and he couldn't.
The first punch and take him down, a la James Toney, Randy Couture. Stipe's a wrestler. Ryan Bader would beat all three of those guys in an MMA match easily.
And the one thing I wanted to quickly address is, people have really been talking about Clarissa Shield. Some Twitter accounts that I really respect are saying, if you give Clarissa Shields 1 year, she can be very competitive against Amanda Nunes. And I've just got to say, guys, no, you're insane.
She may be competitive in the striking exchanges, but on the ground,
she'll get killed.
Nunes is a black belt.
Nunes would end her life inside 5 minutes.
Okay.
No? Do you think that's wrong?
100%, yes. No doubt.
Yeah. So, yeah, the short answer is no one.
All right, I got another one here from Spartan Sports MMA.
Spartan Sports, what up?
If Conor beats Cowboy and Tony beats Khabib, can Conor beat Tony? I feel it's 50-50. If 2016, Conor is back. Well, this is 2020. 2016, Conor's never coming back. I think the Tony's a horrible matchup for Conor for many reasons. Cardio, versatility, chin, jiu-jitsu, Darce chokes, all kinds of reasons. Could Conor win? I guess hypothetically he could win. I would definitely favor Tony in that, especially if he were to beat Khabib. I think Tony would be looked at as arguably the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Can he beat him? Yeah, he can. Do I expect him to? No, I would not pick him.
Let me ask you this, though. I'm playing devil's advocate. Out of these 3 potential opponents for McGregor in 2020, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson, and Jorge Masvidal, I think McGregor by far has the best chance of beating Tony, simply because, look, honestly, maybe that left hand could put Tony out, and that's the only way.
Maybe. I would say
it's not putting out Khabib, and it's not putting out Jorge. So that's the best chance.
I don't think it's putting out Tony either.
I don't know. Well, I don't either. But I'm saying best chance.
Off the top of my head, I would think that Conor has the best chance against Jorge, but we still got to see the 170.
Oh, I don't think that at all. I think Jorge would do whatever he wanted with
Jorge got outpointed by a Wonder Boy like 4 fights ago.
Wonder Boy is a lot bigger than Conor McGregor.
That's very true.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. I got one here. Victorious 1612.
Victoria!
He says, what will happen to Cowboy if he wins this fight? He has lost the current top guys, but if he beats Conor, I think he should retire right there and then. That would be one hell of an epic ending to a career. What do you guys think he should do? I don't think he would retire because Cowboy's just that guy who loves to fight.
By the way, it's Victorious. Sorry, it's Victorious. But we've been calling Victorious Victoria. He's probably thinking we're mocking him. Sorry, Victorious.
I didn't call him Victorious, so speak for yourself.
Oh, I missed. Whatever. You said it. Okay, just go ahead.
Right. That would be an epic ending to a career if he were to beat Conor to walk away on that one. But his stock would be actually at an all-time high after beating Conor, so a rematch with Conor would probably be on the docket or something along those lines, so I don't think he will. I mean, if Cowboy wins the McGregor fight, you know who he fights next? Like, kind of whoever he kind of wants. I mean, it'd be, that's big. That'd be big for Cowboy. That would be big. It would be very big, yep.
It's like maybe him versus Masvidal too?
Or him versus Nate Diaz at 170.
Oh, and they've already fought once, so that'd be a fun rematch.
Nate would be confident, and then they'd both be the guys who beat Conor, yada yada.
Actually, that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, Nate would feel very comfortable with that, especially if Cowboy's stock ever rose that high. So.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. MMA Assault asks, which fight not booked yet do you want to see in 2020?
Wait, didn't we answer this?
I don't know. I just want to say Costa versus Israel again.
Okay. And I'm gonna say, I mean, my final dream is that DC somehow beats Stipe in the 3rd fight, which no, I don't think is likely. Okay, no, I don't think so. But if he does, then my dream is he stays for one more fight, and John Jones fights him at heavyweight, and Daniel Cormier knocks his ass out. So that's my choice.
Excellent choice. Okay, let's keep it moving. We're running a little long here. Jake Davis asks if there was one fighter who could single-handedly put out the Australian bushfires, who would it be?
Gamebred Masvidal, baby, because he already said he's down.
For the Australian bushfires?
Yup, he said he wants to volunteer and do it in February.
Okay, let's roll with him then.
Okay, this is from Quinn at Orthodox1993, perhaps one of our most loyal listeners. Quinn is the man. Guys, give Quinn a follow if you're not following him, okay? Most anticipated rematch you guys want to see booked, #AskSplitPod. Go ahead.
Most anticipated rematch. I know it hasn't. I mean, can I say Khabib versus Tony? I know it's not a rematch, but it's been booked 4 times, and it's the only fight I care about.
Oh, that's not a rematch.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Stipe and Ngannou 2 that's not booked? Or does it have to be booked or non-booked? I want to see Stipe and Ngannou 2. I think Ngannou wins that, by the way.
I think that's very interesting, for sure.
I think Ngannou wins that fight.
Max Volkanovski, too, is obviously very, very intriguing. So.
Yup, agreed. Oh, and I think you actually, credit to you, I would say potentially if Cowboy beats McGregor, then Cowboy Diaz, too.
That'd be a big one, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
We got any more?
Yeah, I got one from Eduardo.
Oh, Eduardo, what up?
He says, describe your perfect fight day, meaning what's the ideal scenery? Who do you prefer to watch with? What food, drinks, substances do you like to consume, etc.?
I mean, honestly, mine's so lame. Mine's either at like a bar with a bunch of friends, which is what I'm definitely doing for 246. But in general, I like to see it at home with the volume on and be like a really big nerd and just have a few friends over.
Yeah. I have my own personal fight parties pretty much for every big one.
Yeah.
Usually, like maybe 4 or 5 people that, want to hear me talk about every single aspect of every single fight.
Right.
And really break it down.
I like chips.
What we drink and consume, it varies on, how excited about the fights we are. Lots of finger foods, lots of pizza. My wife sometimes will make some crock pot pulled pork. So, yeah, we make a deal of it at fight nights at our house.
Absolutely. And crock pots and pulled pork sounds good with me. So I'll echo that one.
And where I live, usually the prelims start at like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So it's like a good 6 or 7 hour deal. Okay, let's keep it moving.
Are we all wrapped up? I don't see any more. Do we have more?
One more from Uchiha African Giant.
What's up, Uchiha African Giant? I love that name.
He says, is a dive a thing or no?
Oh, he's talking about the Cowboy fight, right? I remember that. He's asking if he thinks the Cowboy's going to take a dive. No, I do not think Cowboy's going to take a dive. That would be a criminal. That would be a crime for Cowboy, and it'd be a crime for the UFC. The UFC would risk their entire operation. I don't think it could happen.
That'd be a very Bellator thing to have happen. No, I'm kidding.
Ooh, shots fired. Shots fired.
No, I don't think Cowboy Cerrone with his, 46 walks to the cage or whatever it is now is going to be taking a dive in arguably the most important fight of his career.
Yeah.
No matter, this is a title fight for him. It'll be the title of one of the men who beat Conor McGregor, the UFC's biggest star ever. Okay, let's keep it moving. A few more here, and then we'll get going. MMA, comics, and funny movies asks, again, I don't care for the UFC enough to let them recycle Conor McGregor in my face. We can talk more about Khabib versus Ferguson. Yeah, not Conor, Paige Vanzant, Mayweather versus anyone, or whatever BS pay-per-view that will separate. Never mind.
He's just responding. No. I think we're done with the questions because he just responded to one.
All right, sorry. Well, I just read his response to something.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks a lot, MMA, comics, and movies. No, I love that guy. That guy's actually real legit.
All right, so is that going to do it?
That's going to do it. Take us away, Fight Geek.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words. The Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.